Good morning, everyone, and this is a continuation of the TC, the Traverse City warm-up. I promised on that video, or actually two videos, that I would do some of these things on C trumpet and make a video that you could follow along, play along with on the C trumpet in case that's your main trumpet, or maybe you just got one and you're trying to get used to it. Or maybe you're playing a lot of C trumpet, maybe for your recital, maybe just in general, maybe you play in an orchestra, and so this tends to be something that you want to really focus on. So it's okay to warm up on your C trumpet. I generally warm up on my B flat, but C is a part of my warm up every day as well, and so this is going to be a C trumpet warm up. It is certainly not definitively the C trumpet warm up, but it's the same warm up that we did on the TC warm-up, but now doing it on C, as well as some new stuff. So if you don't have a C trumpet and you're watching this video, you may have already clicked away, but hopefully you didn't, because there's some extra stuff at the end. We're only going to go through the beginning section, because really that's the only part that would be any different on C trumpet. And then you can play along with the rest of the TC on C trumpet, and it won't make any difference. So that already exists. But for now, we'll start with C trumpet, and then I'll show you a couple of things. We're going to do some medium tones, we're going to do some articulation exercises, and we're going to do some sort of released, lifted notes and scales and things. So let's get started. The TC warm-up starts with stretches. I'll assume that you can go there and learn how to do that, and we're going to go straight to the breathing. So this breathing, again, is focused on both instant turnaround, right? So that we never hold our breath. It's just in and out. And we're also working towards a ready embouchure. And that's in some ways the most difficult part for people to grasp. We're really used to going and trying to push everything together at the last second. But that's a mistake. We want to be constantly forming our embouchure over the course of the breath, so that we really don't have to change much at all in order to turn around the air, and it just works. It just snaps into the response. And so that's what we're going to start with. It's important enough to do every single time. If you don't stretch, you just won't quite have as big a lung capacity, and that's fine. You might not be as relaxed. Again, as long as everything else is going on properly, then you should be fine. But this idea of, sometimes I call it a tapered breath, because we're going to diminuendo. We won't be able to inhale as much at the top of the breath as we do at the beginning of the breath. So I'll often refer to it as a tapered breath. I think that's one of the most important concepts that I teach my students, and so that's what we're going to start with. So we're going to use a metronome. I have not set this up yet. That is way too slow. How about 90? I think I probably did the other one at 90. Oh, if that's the case, we'll do 80. How about that? Okay, there we go, 80. Coming out of your left ear a little louder. So if you're listening to, you can take your right ear off if you're listening in headphones, and that way you can hear yourself. And here we go, we're gonna do 4 in and just out. We're not gonna do like 8 out or 10 out or 2 out, just 4 in and turn around immediately, and then we're just gonna let it out. Okay, so here we go, ready, and. Just let it out. And so far we haven't made an embouchure. We're just trying to get the immediacy of turnaround. Okay, here we go. 2, ready, and. And just out. All right, now let's start to taper that breath a little bit. So we're going to make the space that we're breathing through, the hole, a little bit smaller. Not an embouchure yet, but just so we get used to the way that it feels, right? We want to breathe. We don't want the breath to get sippy as we get closer to the smallest hole. We want it to stay the same, and that means less air, okay? So let's try that. Same thing, though, for 4 counts. And ready, go. Good, and just as immediate. Same thing again, let all that air out. Ready, and. Good, you should also feel down here like you're supporting a little bit as you breathe in, so you can breathe against that support a little bit. That's very important as well. All right, let's really make an embouchure as we breathe in for 4, okay? So that we're ready. If you want to, get your mouthpiece, right? And get this sort of set up, all right? Put it where you know it's going to be. That's where my embouchure has to end up. All those muscles, all these muscles, right? And an aperture that can fit in this hole, or sorry, in this rim, right? So that's what we're going to do. Here, I'll do it from over here this time. Ready? And ready, go. Right, and I'm holding my mouthpiece nearby just to remind me that's where I've got to get to, right? In fact, we can even start to move it closer and closer, and maybe we'll get something, right? Here we go. Ready, go. And just let it out. Okay, now let's switch to 2 beats. So only 2 beats to get our whole embouchure. Here, I'll move back here so I'm not in your face. And ready, go. And just let it out. Again, same thing. Ready, go. Now you should really feel like you're breathing against that support and that your embouchure, excuse me, is in a readied position, like it's really going to work on the mouthpiece. Ready? Ready, go. Good. Now let's try just 1 beat. A lot of times we'll use 1 beat. If you play in a band, you'll often be asked to breathe just on 4 as the preparatory beat. Sometimes that's all you get anyway. So here we go. And ready, go. Yeah, it happens really fast, right? So it's okay at first if you're not really ready to put it on the trumpet, right? If it's not quite all the way there. But that's where we want to get to. So maybe we'll do this 5 or 6 more times. Ready? Ready? Go. And let it all out. Ready? Go. Maybe bring the mouthpiece close so you know what your goal is. And ready? Go. Let it all out. And the same thing. Ready, and oops, I spit at you that time. But that's okay. That means that I'm getting really good velocity of air on the way out, which means things are working. All right? 1 more time on that, and then we'll do it on the mouthpiece. And ready, go. And just let that out. Okay, now we're ready. So we'll take a little concentration break here for a second, and I'll just tell you what the next exercise is going to be. It's the same as the TC. We are going to breathe in for 2, and we're going to do a breath attack, and we're going to do it on just the mouthpiece. I think in the TC we do it both on the trumpet and the mouthpiece. Right now we're just going to do it on the mouthpiece for the first part. Again, I haven't done this yet, but I will post on my Instagram, which is also TPTPROF, just like my well, the name of this account, but not with Mr. And my TikTok as well are both good places to find a lot of this stuff in miniature. But so yeah, so I'll make sure that I'll scan this in and put this exercise up. This will be 2A if you're following along at home, and I've done that. But we're going to breathe in for 2. We're going to play a note. Whatever note comes out, don't try to match my pitch unless I tell you to later. And we're just going to go in for 2, play for 3, rest for 1, in for 2, play for 3, rest for 1. So it'll feel kind of like a bar of 6 beats, okay? So that's what we're going to do. And we'll go even a little slower at 70 this time, just so we have a chance to do everything that we know we need to do. So what is that? Instant turnaround, right? We don't care what pitch comes out, and we're making our embouchure as we breathe in so that it's ready to go. So if you find yourself going, I'll get closer again. If you find yourself going, right, all at the last minute, that's what we're trying to avoid. So maybe even get a mirror out so you can watch yourself do this. I don't advocate playing with a mirror all the time, but this is a great time for a mirror, or your phone or your computer is what I'm using. So yeah, and then once you know you're doing it, you can kind of feel, oh yeah, that's happening. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to hold my mouthpiece a little wrong. This is one of the right ways to do it, just by the end with 4 fingers. That way you can see my embouchure and aperture, right? So we're going to add the mouthpiece into the equation now. We're going to even add a little pressure, okay? Yeah, that's set up. Now you can see where I'm talking through. That's where I'm going to breathe through. And it's going to get smaller and smaller, closer and closer to as I breathe in, okay? Here we go. Ready, and... Ready? Oh, sorry. So we'll do it in a loop. So you'll exhale all your air on that fourth beat after we start playing, and then we'll inhale for 2 again. So I'll just do it in a loop now. Again, don't tell it what note to be. Just whatever note comes out is fine. Focus on getting your embouchure ready to turn around that air. All right? Here we go. 2, ready, and... Good. So, and you can do that on your own as much as you need, right? Just until it feels really stable. When you do the turnaround perfectly and your embouchure is 97% set up and just that last 3% responds to the air, you're going to get a really stable buzz that just feels like you could do it all day. And it also almost feels like you're leaning into something a la the reflection that we talked about in the later part of the TC, which we will get to immediately. Okay, so we are going to do one thing on the trumpet though, and that is just another way to practice this turnaround active embouchure, and that is, again, we're using the C trumpet today. You can use a B flat trumpet. I think we did this in the other exercise as well. But we're going to play an A in the staff. We're going to put this on 60 beats per minute. Oops, that's 50. And we're just going to do on, off, on, off. So you might not actually breathe every time, but it's making sure that I do breathe most of the time, but it's just making sure that we feel like we're responding. The embouchure is not preset, but it is responding to the air, but it's like 97% ready, right? So we'll breathe for 2 this time for the first one, and then we're just going to do on, off, very legato, completely mechanical here. Ready? Ready, go. So just like that, on and off, and you can see I'm breathing very slightly. You probably can't hear it. I'm breathing very slightly in on the rests just to have some vacuum so that I have something to turn around again. Not a lot, but I'm mostly keeping my embouchure where it was, but I'm just practicing making sure that 3% still responds to the air. So that's a good, I call those alarm clock tones a lot of times because they sound like somebody's alarm clock going off. Feel free to do those as long as you want. They're not ever really going to hurt you. You can get tired doing them, but they're not something that where you're in danger in any way, right? It's pretty simple. Okay, so now let's actually engage the reflection. This is where it actually really matters that we're on a C trumpet, because if you're doing it on a B flat trumpet, it's going to be a whole step lower and a different valve that we take out. So if you haven't watched the other TC warm up, what we're going to do is we're going to do some lead pipe buzzing here, but we're actually going to do it through the valve, through the vented valve. So what you're going to do is you're going to, well, first of all, let me find the spot that this is in focus. You're going to push down your first valve. You're going to take out, you can't really see it, you're going to take out your first valve slide. You're going to put it back in on just the top slide, right, so that it's there and not on down here. It's a piece of tape on mine. And then you're going to get your thumb in that saddle so it doesn't fall out. Okay, that's really important. You don't want to, don't blame me if you dropped it on your hardwood floor and it dented. I don't want any bills. All right, and this is now going to be a G lead pipe buzzing machine and a G through the bell machine, right? So I can just use this button, and here I am playing the lead pipe, and here I am playing the trumpet. Lead pipe, trumpet, right? Just the same as we did on the second valve on the B-flat trumpet. But this is going to be a little different, and I showed this in the other warm up, but I want to do the whole thing with you guys. So I'll just give you little sort of primers before we do each section. But first, the goal is just to get this turnaround and this embouchure to find us a reflection. What is the reflection? Technically speaking, it's the feeling of the standing wave vibration sort of resisting, pushing back at you. It has to do with bracing. It has to do with the lengths of pipes. There's a lot going into it that we don't have time to cover, and that, quite frankly, I don't really understand all of. But it's this feeling of the horn pushing back at you, and we're going to lean into that, right? So to cover what we talked about last time, the air is going to go through my lips, find that place in the horn that pushes back at me. That's going to come back and push my lips back together to cause them to vibrate. And caught in between, they'll continue to vibrate really easily and freely. And then I'm going to beef up my embouchure just a little bit to sort of make sure that I always know where that reflection is, okay? So when you do this, you should feel the horn pushing back, and you shouldn't be afraid of it. You should, in fact, lean into it a little bit. And if you don't know what I mean, just do it more. You'll find it eventually. So, okay, we're going to find this pitch here. I'll play a G. Right? That's our pitch that we're going for. A lot of times this is a little bit flat, so you can push your tuning slide in so that they're closer together. Not all the way, but you can see mine is pretty far in. And it may not be a perfect concert G, whatever that number is supposed to be, but as long as it's close, that's what we're looking for, okay? And we're going to do breath attack. We're still doing breath attack. We haven't done anything but breath attacks yet, and we still won't for a little while. We're just going to find that reflection. So here we go, breathing for 2, same thing as we did before. And ready, go. Make sure you release the note at the end. We'll do that at the very end of this exercise, but this is a great place to start. Don't just stop the air. Release into silence, right? That's a more active way to do it. If you're not sure, just taper until it quits on you, and then try to make that happen better. I will explain it later when we get to that. But for now, let's just do that again. And ready, go. If it's a fuzzy buzz or an airy buzz, we really want this to be like angry bees, I say a lot. It's a real bright, real full sounding buzz, almost too much so that it's annoying. It's kind of, right? That's what we're looking for. And so if that's still not happening for you, or you're not sure, or if it feels thuddy or you're not feeling the reflection, just do it more, right? We'll do one more together, but pause the video or rewind and just go back and do it over and over again. Again, this is another thing where it is more like trumpet playing. So unlike mouthpiece buzzing or something like that, you really can't do too much of it. It is just like trumpet playing. It's the way we want to play, in fact. So you can get tired doing it, but you're not going to suddenly not be able to play or something. All right, here we go. One more last time. Good. So now we want to check that on the bell side. So once we get it, we're going to go to the bell, and then we'll come back, okay? And I'm going to do this with a metronome. I don't know what I put it on last time. We'll do, sure, 80 is fine, right? We're going to do 4 beats on the vented side, and 4 beats on the bell side, and 4 beats on the vented side, and we'll probably be out of air by then, all right? And ready? Yeah, sorry, I'll just go and play, okay? And release at the end always, right? It was good. It probably surprised you how much sound that was. Let's do it again. And again, you could do this for a long time, but let's speed it up. Let's do it twice as fast. So now we're going to do half notes. Always starting on the valve for now. Here we go. 1, 2. Got a little cack at the end there. We'll do that one more time. And 1, 2. Always releasing. Now we're really releasing in the bell, so we can really practice it here. All right, good. So now you may say, well, Gabriel, this is great and all, but, and you know, I'm feeling like I'm getting it, but we haven't done any articulation yet, and I'm getting nervous that my tonguing is going to screw this up, and you'd be right to worry about that. So we're going to do some tonguing on the next exercise. In the other TC exercise, you may remember we did bell first, and that's important too. Again, it's covered in the other one, but now we're going to do some tonguing. Okay, so same exercise, but now we're doing quarter notes, and we're going to do 4 quarter notes through the vented valve, tongued, and then we'll switch to the bell and do 4 more quarter notes, and we'll do a repeat of that. Okay, same tempo for now. Here we go. 1, 2. Good. If you're finding yourself blah, 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 on the lead pipe or the bell side, your tonguing is too big of an action, or maybe your jaw's moving while you're doing it. So I just do the brushiest tongue I can, and even if your tongue is very if you have this reflection going, it'll sound ta ta ta. It'll sound really accurate, and it's actually much easier and keeps everything a little smaller. Again, very controversial. If you're studying with somebody and your teacher says to tongue really hard to make sure you get notes, do whatever they say. I'm advocating for a brushier tongue that has this reflective production method, and that's also a good way to get it. But like I never will ever contradict another teacher. So I acknowledge that this is controversial, and this is just the way that I find the most success for the types of music that I play, which tends to be quite varied. So there might be better ways to do it that just aren't as applicable to other genres, or maybe just for different dentition. So again, don't take my word for it. Always listen to your current teacher. But if you don't have a teacher, this is a good way to do it for now. Okay, here we go. Same thing. 1, 2. I try to make that release an event that sometimes has longer tail than I'd like. That's better than trying to cut it off. All right, let's double the speed, right? So we'll do it'll still be 4, but we'll do 1/8 notes now. And 1, 2. Good, we'll do that again. 2, 3. And you can do this with or without a metronome, and as fast as you'd like. I usually go twice as fast as this, just to make sure my single tongue is really easy and quick and not getting in the way of this reflection. In fact, they should complement each other. And then I'm gonna bend it down to low C. So I usually would do these all together for myself. I go. And that's the thing we're going to do next. We're not going to go as fast, but we're going to stick with 1/8 notes, but we are going to do this bend, okay? So at first, so first of all, why are we going to do it? Well, low C, is sort of a logy, nowhere note on the trumpet. It's very easy to play, but it's not easy to play with the same consistency and tone and depth that we play most of the rest of the notes on the trumpet, especially the ones that are in that middle register. And so this is kind of, you could call it like the first note that's like you could just relax into and not really play with your best embouchure. So here we're going to bend a G down to that low C in order to get them to have the same reflection and basically the same, therefore, control and color, right? So we're just going to do it out of time. I want you to get your best lead pipe buzz on your G, check it, and then go back, and I just want you to bend down. You're going to add air, you're going to lower your tongue, you might lower your jaw, and you're going to get down to a low C and then check that as well. Okay, so I'll do it once, just watch me, and then we can do it together. So. And it's important to go back to the lead pipe at the end because if we just relax into it when we actually play the bell side, we'll reveal that when we go back to the lead pipe. It'll go. And it'll reveal that we didn't keep our embouchure active the way we wanted, okay? So here we go, together. And I'm sort of doing this in time. I don't know if it's... We'll do it. Here we go. And around two. So there's some rough time to it. Try it again. See if we can do it the bend a little bit faster. Okay? 1, 2. Yeah, good. We shaved two beats off of it. Now let's see if we can add some tonguing. We'll do 8th note tonguing. And 1, 2. Great. Now that you know what I'm doing, since I didn't demonstrate it, let's try it again. And 1, 2. Yeah, great. So if this is hard for you, that's totally normal. It's hard for me. And I've been doing it, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, I guess. And I do it every day. So just keep working on it, right? If it's hard to bend the notes down, you need to sort of think about your corners maybe, make a little more space in your mouth. If it's hard to keep the pitch the same when you're changing from the bell side to the lead pipe side or vice versa, again, you need to put a little more effort into what's behind the rim in the embouchure. But anyway, so that's all that's really different about the TC. You could stop here if you like the rest of the TC and switch over there. In some point in the future, I'm sure I will tag these warm-ups with time code so that you can skip to different parts of it. But I kind of like the idea that you just flip it on and that's today's warm-up. And then when you're ready to actually skip around, well, you don't need me anymore. You know what you're doing. You just put together your own warm-up. Like I said to some of my students, I don't do these for views or any kind of fame for sure, because that's never going to happen. I do this as a resource so that you have somebody who's reminding you of some of the things that you might learn in your lesson and some of your core values that you want to really, basically what to think of when you're doing your long tones, what to think of when you're doing lead pipe buzzing, right? So that it's not just a mindless exercise, because it's very difficult to get better doing any kind of mindless thing. The only thing maybe you can get away with is some bad long tones, but even then you should really be active. So, okay, let's cover some different things. We did alarm clock tones early on, and I want to show you a different one, and that is medium tones. Medium tones are a little better than alarm clock tones in that they give you a better idea of whether or not what you did worked. Sorry. So in other words, alarm clock tones, I'll show you again, are And if I just get my lips kind of close, then for that amount of time, I don't necessarily know if I really got it. I'll know that the response happened, and maybe that's my goal, but I won't know if that's a sustainable embouchure that I turned around the air on, right? Oh, no, it wasn't, right? And I won't know that until it's too late, till I'm way into my practice session and I'm doing something else, but I've already built a habit on this poor embouchure, right? So that's why we want medium tones, and they are exactly like they sound. They are not alarm clock tones, and they are not long tones. They are medium tones. And they don't change notes or anything, although you could do some things like that with them. They just simply play a little bit longer, and it gives you a better sense. So we can move them around. We can do whatever we want. But let's stay on A for now, and we'll use a metronome. And generally, medium tones are kind of like alarm clock tones that are much, much slower. Or how about we go 70, and we hold it for 2 beats instead of 1. And we rest for 2 beats instead of 1, right? So here we go. And yeah, now we're getting it. And you could even go longer. Let's go in, out, so still 2 beats of rest, but let's hold for 3 now. And yeah, good. So you can see these medium tones are a little bit more, they give you a little more information as to whether or not the thing that you're turning around your air into is actually going to be a good thing for you to use all day, or did you just kind of get the timing down and it really needs to be something different, right? You can also do some other things with medium tones. You can add maybe a little bit of lip slurs into them. That's another good test. You can also move them around. You could do them the other way. Right? You can do the maybe a little bit of a shake on them, or a lip trill, to see if this embouchure is really a good embouchure for all the things you want to do. You can articulate on it a little bit. You could, I mean, really the sky's the limit. You're just giving yourself a little more time, right? Then there's another thing that I like to do. I call increasing tones. This is an exercise that sort of forces me to memorize where things are actually going to happen, and then also do them longer and longer. So I'll give you the secret code quickly, and then I'll try to do it. Sometimes I mess up my numbers. It is what it is, right? But I'm going to start with, I'm going to breathe for some amount of time, and then I'm going to come in and I'm going to play for 3 counts and rest for 1 count. Should feel like a normal 4/4 bar. Then I'm going to play for 4 counts and rest for 2 counts. Then I'm going to play for 5 counts and rest for 3 counts. And so it's always going to go up by 1, both the playing and the rest. Sometimes it's hard to keep track. I just always try to remember what the last big number I did was, and then I subtract 2 from whatever I'm doing right now, and that's the rest. So I know that sounds confusing. Again, something that I'll try to post, but this is a good one to do a little faster than 70, maybe something like 90. Let's go 84. Why not? And a lot of times I'm doing this so that I know that I'm getting right to the heart of that reflection right away. So a lot of times what I'll do is 3 strikes and you're in, where if I get really good, or 3 hits and you're in, I don't know. I'll get 3 really good ones in a row, and then I'll just do a long tone on that, right? So it sort of supplants alarm clock tones before my long tones. And it also has medium tones built into it, right? Because they're getting longer. But if I don't get any in a row, then I need to do them all. And I just do them until I get to about 12 counts of holding. And at that point, I've done 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 already. So it's a long time to play 1 note. And then I usually go down by half step for what I'm using them for. So I'm going to start on, why not, C in the staff, right? And 1, 2. So I just did to 10 for now, and then I would do that all the way down to maybe low C or even lower, or maybe I'm working my way up. Whatever it is, that's an example of increasing tones, and you can go as long or as short as you want. You can also increase the rests instead, or you can play around with that, but the idea is to make it longer and longer, so I have to memorize it for longer, as well as make me play for longer so that I'm testing to see if it really works. I got a little bit of a wobble in there, here and there, and different things, little cuffs on my attacks. Again, I always did a breath attack because that's what I'm after, is the production. So now we've done plenty of breath attacks and we have worked on articulation. So now we're going to do an articulation exercise. This was sort of an adapted exercise. The Sachs book, Daily Fundamentals by Mike Sachs, is an excellent book. It has a very good articulation exercise. I used to do that, and then somehow it morphed into this, and I'm not exactly sure how, but here's what it is. We're going to start on a D in the staff. For us, we are going to play legato for 5 notes, and we're going to play staccato or some sort of lifted articulation for 5 notes, and then we're going to play 9 notes, I guess. Yeah. That go from one to the other. So you can think of 4 legato, 4 staccato, and a final note. But it's going to sound like this. I'll do one on D, and then we can do C sharp together. All right? So we're going to go. And again, always release. So I'm thinking 1, 2, off. All right? At the end. But does that make sense? Da 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 da. And there needs to be some direction on those last 9 notes, that we don't just go ta 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 ta. It's not just an exercise. We're making music here, right? So let's do C sharp together, and I'll put on a metronome so we can do it together. 84 is not too bad. All right, so think 16th notes and quarter notes. Here we go. C sharp, 2, and. And maybe let's hold the last note a little longer. Let's do C now. And ready? Yeah. Now B. And 1, 2. And if you're going to do a taper on these, make sure that you manage that taper. You make it taper. Don't let it do anything. Keep the air going through the diminuendo if you're going to do one. I keep almost doing one, and then I'm like, oh, maybe I want to sustain. I'm going to decisively do one this time, but I'm going to support it. I'm not going to just let it sort of back off, okay? So we're on B flat now. And 1, 2. Yeah, I got a little shaky. Now A. 1, 2. All right, good. So we could do a million of these, but you can see the point. And if you're having trouble tonguing in a certain register, this is a really great way to work on it. If your low register or your high register is giving you trouble with articulation, this gets you sort of a spectrum of articulation, right? We're starting the longest articulation we can do. We're practicing the shortest one, so that, in other words, the mechanics of what's going to happen. And then we're going from one to the other. And I try to do that as smoothly as I can. Sometimes it still sounds like da 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 da, but you know, and I try to make sure that it's dramatic. So that's a color change as well as maybe a little bit of dynamic push there. And because I need to warm up my musical ability as well. And anytime I can work that into an exercise and it's not distracting, I try to do it. I do practice a lot of mechanics, as you will see in all my warm-ups. It's mostly about mechanical work, making sure that that stuff doesn't get in my way when I try to make music. But I also need to practice some music. So there's one last thing I want to do, and that is practicing this lift that I've been talking about since, excuse me, our reflection exercise on the lead pipe, right? That you want to release the notes at the end. Most people, if you ask them if they're in middle school or high school, how do you stop a note? They'll say a couple of different things, and they're all valid ways to stop the note. They'll say, well, you stop the air. Okay, yeah, absolutely, that'll stop the note. Some say you stop it with the tongue. That's very clean. It's a useful way to do it in a lot of circumstances, but it can be a little bit ugly if you don't do it gently. And again, it is stopping the air, just stopping it a different way, right? So the way that I like to do it, there are other answers, but the way that I like to do it is I just release it into the air. So the air actually never stops. I just make the vibration stop and the air continue. And if you do that just right, then it releases it into the silence in a way that keeps the momentum going. And not just for the music, but it does for the music, right? I want to into the brightness, into the silence, so that silence has energy sort of ringing through it. But it also doesn't stop my momentum, so that if I want to play those are all connected together in my body, even though they're not connected together in the air space, right, in the music. So that's what we're going to do is lifted scales, right? Scales are very easy to make musically because we do them a lot. And so let's play, let's play our D major scale. All right, lots of out of tune notes, lots of things to work on. Make sure you use your slides. And we're just going to go, we'll do this with a metronome as well. Oh, I love it. 84 is still good. Okay, so we're going to do really this is mechanical still. We're going to go, I got the right pitch. Oh, I guessed right. Okay, and da, da, da. And you can hear in my voice, I'm not going da, da, right? I'm going da, 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 into the air. And we're going to do that on the trumpet. As a matter of fact, we should preface this with, let's just do a very, very long taper and let it dissipate, right? So we're getting softer and softer and softer. And at some point, the energy level of the air just can't quite make the lip vibrate, or maybe the lip gets too hard to vibrate or whatever, and the note just stops, but the air doesn't ever stop, right? So don't make this stop, but just kind of do, on the first note, we'll do D, all right? And just when it stops, it stops. Go as long as you can. You hear it just stops. And now I want to do that just a little bit faster. You can hear the air after the note. All right? Again, a little bit faster still. That might have been almost the same. But, and hopefully what you're starting to feel when you do this is there's this moment where the note quits and you can feel it coming. You know exactly when it's going to come. So maybe now anticipate it a little bit. Maybe even urge it to stop when you want. A little faster. Now we should have some control, and I'm letting the pitch go a little bit because I want to roll into the highs, and I'm getting tired. But now we should have a little bit of control. So now let's see if we can do like a wah, right? Off. Good. And now let's see if we can do that as more of a mechanical on-off so that it's not this whoa, it's not this sort of forzando, but it's just a ha off, ha, right? Let's try that. Just D, and I'll put a metronome on now. And ready? Good. So again, you can practice this a bunch if you want. This is not unlike color change where it's on and off. I do a lot of stuff this way because I'm practicing the mechanics. So now let's try to go a little bit of a taper, but off on the beat, and we'll just play a D major scale without going to E. So just D major, just up to D octave, and then back down. And 1, 2. Now, I cheated a little bit there because I let sometimes my tail ring into the next thing, but I always made sure that it was lifted. So I didn't want to prematurely make it cut off. If I had it to do again, I probably would do it a little slower, but I just wanted you to see the exercise so you have some idea of ways to practice this lifted release. It's not entirely intuitive if you've been doing it a different way, but once you are doing it this way, I think it's actually it is entirely intuitive because it feels like long tones feel, it feels like lip slurs feel, and yet you can still make any articulation you want, right? If I play, let's see if I can remember enough Francais. So if I want only a little bit of that note is actually sounding, and the biggest part of it is silence, right? So right? I'm making sure that the articulation is helping me sort of spark the note, but I'm actually in a situation where it's mostly air between the notes, and I'm feeling like I'm just playing like as if it were slurred in my support and my airstream. So that's something to go for, right? And it's very, very useful, especially in an orchestral context, in a sonata context, or solo, I should say, where you are able to sort of disappear. And if you really get good at it, you can reverse engineer it and kind of appear like clarinet players do so well. So anyway, that's a little bit of articulation, a little bit of lifted scales, a little bit of medium tones. And this is not a complete warm-up. It's just sort of ancillary tacking on to the TC warm-up. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you feel better about your C trumpet playing, and maybe even now your C trumpet feels better than your B flat. I know for me it usually does after I've done these kinds of exercises, and then I don't want to play anything else after that. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me. And yeah, like I said, if this is helpful to you, feel free to do it all the time, and then sort of pick and choose the parts that work for you out of all of these different warm-ups. And at that point, you don't need me anymore. Maybe check in every week or every month just to make sure that you aren't forgetting anything. I know that I'm using it for a resource for me to stay organized because I forget a lot of the stuff that I say, and I need to remember it because it is helping me. And that's what these are all about, is really, these are the things that have helped me over the years, and now I want them to help you. So I hope you enjoyed this.